College football is always in the news, so we're back live on the Big Mountain.
Hey, it's great to have you back on the mountain. As Steve said, we are live, and I love how you say that. We have a huge episode going today. We are planning a PAC update, PAC media update. We want to talk about the Beavs and the Cougs. I know you want to talk about the Big Ten and specifically media information. And I'm going to be talking San Jose State, and I'm going to be talking Hawaii, and I want to talk about Spencer Danielson. Uh-oh, I'm hearing something.
We're still in the middle of our technical difficulties. We're getting it. We're
good.
Getting there. Yeah,
we're good. So let's start with PAC media, the PAC media rights. So we just did an episode on that, and it actually broke the day we came out with the episode. So 11 of the 13 home games are going to be on the CW. And then when we did that episode, the rumors were there's going to be 3 Fox games. There's actually only 2 Fox games. So it'll either be Fox or FS1. They're not sure if it'll be on the main channel or on FS1. The 2 that made it to the Fox broadcast is Oregon State versus Oregon, and Washington State versus Texas Tech. So the one Pac-12 game, the Beavs and the Cougs game, that we thought was going to be on Fox is not. So we also have the Pac-12 network is going to be using their infrastructure to produce the CW broadcast. We kind of knew about that. The financials were not disclosed, but again, expectations are about $1 million per game, give or take. It's right in that range of what we talked about. In terms of exposure, this is way better than the Pac-12 network and what they would have had last year on both of these channels, both the CW and on Fox. The CW is actually expected to promote Pac-12 games during their ACC games, and I'm sure they'll do vice versa. They'll promote ACC games during their PAC games as well. There's lots of afternoon kickoffs and potential for even more. 6 of the 13 games right now are scheduled for kickoff during the daytime hours in the West Coast, and another 4 could actually see afternoon time slots. So you could have 10 of 13 home games for these teams being in the noon to afternoon time slots, which would be huge for them.
Pacific time. Right?
Pacific time, Pacific time. Yeah. And then the 2 Fox games have not yet been given their time slot, so we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the vast majority of this stuff could be during the day on the Pacific Coast. And there is one Friday night game, the San Jose State game. I believe it's the Cougs that play San Jose State on a Friday evening, so that's actually kind of cool. And then the CW does have a lot of openings in the afternoon. It'll fit right into their primetime window, according to what I've been reading. And the whole Pac-12 after dark, you've brought that up several times, is dead skis. We're not going to have the Pac-12 after dark, which is okay by me because you know what I like to watch after dark.
Mountain West.
The Mountain West, yes, the Mountain West after dark. But Steve, I think you wanted to talk about the Oregon State and the Washington State schedules. They were both put up. I know you got a cool graphic. We'll get that put up on the screen as well. Let's talk about some Beavs and Cougs schedules.
Yeah. I mean that's been the big thing here is, like you mentioned, getting on TV during those afternoon hours, getting the publicity. Yeah. They could have put all these games just on the Pac-12 network, but not very. You have to go find that, like we talked about. It's not right there on your controller, so or there on your guide. So let's talk about the 2024 home football schedule. All these games will be on the CW or one of the Fox networks, either Fox or FS1.
Yep.
For Oregon State, we have Idaho State. It's going to be on the CW. They're going to have Oregon on Fox or FS1. On the 21st, they're going to be hosting Purdue, and that will be on the CW. Or Fox. I think it's kind of up in the air at this point. Colorado State on October 5th will be on CW. UNLV on October 19th. And then November 9th, San Jose State. That's going to be one of those that's it could be flexed. It looks like it should be on the CW. But it could be flexed. And then they're going to finish off on November 23rd against Washington State. That game will be on the CW. I think we were surprised by that.
I was very surprised by that.
The Fox games. Okay, so that was Oregon State. And so for Washington State, they start out Labor Day weekend against Portland State. That game's definitely on the CW. Big game. They host Texas Tech on September 7th.
Yep.
That could be on Fox or FS1. On September 20th, San Jose State. That's going to be on CW.
That's that Friday night game.
Yes.
I like Friday night
Me
games.
too. Love it. Love it. And 10/19 Hawaii. That looks like that's going to be on the CW. November 9th, Utah State should be on the CW. And then to end the season, November 30th, Wyoming on the CW. So I'm sure you'll be watching that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of our PAC fans and Mountain West fans will be watching that. So it's just good to have their schedule. I know you've been talking about this for a long time. They needed to have something set in stone so that their fans and knew where they were going to be able to go and find them, watch their games, and so they didn't just kind of fade out of the public college football domain.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, so that's the Oregon State, Washington State schedule. Now I want to talk about the Big Ten, their schedule.
Okay, we switch into the Big Ten. I see we've got, real quick, let's do some shout outs. We got Genetics on, giving us a hello. We got Squeeze Money on. Again, make sure you throw a little hi on there. We love to know who's watching and following along with us. And of course, as we started last week, we've got the list of goodies that we're going to be going over. So yeah, you want to go Big Ten? That's where we're going next. All right.
I'm ready. I'm ready if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, so let's bring the Big Ten schedules back up on the screen too, if we can. So we're going to start with CBS. I have here. Okay, so before we get into the schedules, I want to put them up on the screen. We'll start with CBS, but I want to give everyone a little background if they're not familiar. So every year, the Big Ten, because they have multiple media partners,
right,
they do a draft, kind of like a fantasy draft of the games, and they're not actually picking the games; they're picking the weeks that they have first pick. Okay, so Fox has the details are fuzzy, but the rumor is Fox has the first 3 picks.
Okay.
And so when a media outlet picks that week and they know exactly what game that they're going to pick, they go ahead and release it. They like to get these out at least 3 or 4 marquee games, usually early in the season.
Okay.
So that they can get them out for their media upfronts, which most of these companies have been having their upfronts this week, which the upfronts are huge for their advertising dollars.
Yeah.
So it was really cool this week watching these kind of come out. I was on Twitter seeing things pop up because we don't get to see the actual picks. Mm-hmm. We just see when the media companies release it. So we're like, oh, well, they must have had, that's what they took with their first pick.
Yep.
That's who they took with their third pick.
Yep.
So starting with CBS, September 14th, Notre Dame at Purdue. This is their big game of the year. This is the one that they wanted, they coveted. 3:30 p.m. So CBS is going to have that 3:30 p.m. time slot. So just a reminder, Fox with their big noon, CBS will have the 3:30 time slot, and then NBC has the night. They just call it the night game. Could be 7:30, could be 7:38, depending on the night. But CBS going with September 14th, Notre Dame at Purdue. I'm sure they're happy to have Notre Dame back on CBS.
Yeah,
probably been a while. And then September 21st, the following week, boom, USC at Michigan. So 2 just classic powers. We don't know for sure if the Notre Dame or this game was their number 1 pick, but both of them, those were big time games they wanted to have. Michigan coming off of a national championship. They're the biggest kind of brand in college football right now.
Right.
USC joining the Big Ten, and one of the biggest powers on the West Coast. I have no idea, honestly. I tried to look this up if USC had ever played at Michigan at the Big House. I couldn't find anything. So if any of our viewers know that, but I didn't see any record of it. So maybe this is the first time ever USC playing at Michigan. And then, so those are the only 2 games they announced, other than December 7th, they're going to have the Big Ten championship game. So I know you love every year Fox having your buddy Gus going crazy and screaming. But this year, if you watch the Big Ten championship game, you're not going to have Gus Johnson. Oh. It's going to be on CBS.
Okay.
8 p.m. December 7th. And that was part of the new media deal. So,
gotcha.
Okay. So moving forward, let's talk about the Fox games. So like we said, Fox has the first 3 picks, we think. Okay.
Yes.
And again, they may have picked some other games, but this is the one, or some other weeks, but these are the ones that they announced because they know that's the game they want to go with.
Sure.
So first of all, I'm going to jump towards the end. Everybody knows November 30th, Michigan and Ohio State, the game. That's on Fox every year. It's usually the highest rated college football game of the season, has been the last couple years. So that's a pretty easy one out of the gate. The next one, so there was a lot of debate. Would they pick the Ohio State at Penn State as their second pick? That would be on the big noon game, which Penn State fans hate because they, the whiteout. They do the whiteout at night. They want to be able to white out Ohio State. The last 2 years, Penn State had to do their whiteout game, Iowa and Minnesota, which not quite the level of a Michigan or Ohio State.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the, I was paying attention to Twitter, Penn State Twitter, college football media Twitter, and that was, who were they going to pick next? So Fox has on September 7th, Texas at Michigan. Again, huge game, big brand like Texas, going to Michigan, playing at the Big House.
Yep.
And it looks like their second pick, which this was the big surprise, instead of maybe that Penn State-Ohio State game, it looks like their second pick might have been Bama at Wisconsin.
Okay.
So I don't know if when the last time Bama played on Fox, but playing at Wisconsin, again, two historic power programs, all that history. Wisconsin, great atmosphere, great environment, Camp Randall Stadium.
Yeah.
So, Fox, they just couldn't pass on that chance to get Alabama on Fox.
No doubt.
Playing a classic program. So again, those top three games, those are their picks. Those are the ones that they know what they're going to do and they announced.
Okay.
We still have to find out what's going on with the whiteout game for Penn State, which one will be the whiteout, because there's no, and we're going to get to the NBCs, but you'll see there's no Penn State game announced so far. So we still don't know who the whiteout, what the whiteout game is going to be, and if the Ohio State-Penn State game is going to be on Fox, which is interesting.
Maybe they'll pick Delaware for the whiteout.
Yeah,
game.
maybe. Yeah, I know you love their out-of-conference schedule. Well, right now it's looking like Illinois could be the if they want to do it at night, which that's been the tradition.
Right.
And if Fox picks that, they were hoping for it to be the UCLA game. They were hoping NBC was going to pick the UCLA game.
Okay.
And have that as the whiteout. But it looks like the Fox hasn't announced it, but it looks like Fox has already taken that game to be on their big noon, as well as the West Virginia or the Penn State at West Virginia. It looks like they have that locked up for big noon.
Okay.
So let's get into NBC. The night games on NBC. I think this has been a huge part of the new contract, getting that like primetime game. NBC wanted to get back into college football.
Yeah.
They wanted to get the Big Ten. They have Notre Dame, which is usually like 2:00 afternoon games. They want to get those primetime, those big games. They want to get the Big Ten back. Done a good job the last couple years. So the first night game, I think you're going to find this interesting. Okay. August 31st, I believe that's Labor Day weekend. Saturday night, 8 p.m. The Big Ten on NBC on Saturday night. The first game, Fresno State at Michigan.
Yes.
In the Big House.
Yes.
Wow, that's going to be one of the big marquee games of the weekend in prime time. Great opportunity. If you're ever going to play Michigan, coming off of the 3-year run they had where they lost their coach.
Right.
They put half their team went to the NFL, I think. This is a time to go in there and if you have a chance for another historic upset like Appalachian State did years ago, whatever, this is a great, I think to me, a prime time showcase for Fresno State. Even if they don't upset them, just play well in the first half and on NBC in prime time. So I'm sure our Mountain West fans will be excited about that. And then the other big NBC game, they only announced 2 of their games. September 7th, Colorado at Nebraska. Again, 2 kind of historic programs. You have Colorado now with Dion being there, getting all that excitement, playing at Nebraska, historic Big Ten program, kind of back on the rise with Matt Rule, nationally known program. So for NBC, they want to get in the Big House. They want to be back. Big Red. I don't know. Yeah, Dave Jorgensen is here. They want to see Colorado and Nebraska has had a long traditional rivalry. Going back to the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I think this was a huge rivalry. They've tried to keep it going, but for a while, neither team was any good. Yeah. At least now, Colorado, they have some. I don't know if they're any good, but they have a lot of publicity around them.
For sure.
And like I said before, I think Nebraska is back on that upward trend. So that's a huge game for NBC. And again, we still don't know when the whiteout is going to be. So there are some questions to be answered. But so far, right now, we have a good snapshot of what the Big Ten media calendar is going to look like. Do you have any comments?
My comment is you didn't mention, well, you mentioned the whiteout game, but Penn State's not one of the teams that has been picked yet.
Yeah.
However, one of my Mountain West teams was.
Yes. Yeah.
So
you're
I'm
right.
just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. And it's and it's a good point. And I'll be honest with you. I expected Penn State to be one of those marquee. Penn State plays a very strange schedule this year.
Yeah.
Every other year, every year for the last 12 years, I think they played Michigan and Ohio State in the same year. This year, they only play one of them. They're traveling to USC. They're hosting UCLA and Washington, which could be really interesting. But both of those programs are coming off a coaching change. They're kind of down. So I think that I'm guessing the network media partners are wondering, is that even going to be a good game? Do we want, is UCLA going to be terrible? Is Washington going to be terrible? Do we really want that as a big primetime game? So,
but Washington coming off a national championship game last year, and you would think they've got the name recognition right now. I would mark them just because of that.
Well, and some people thought might be the game that would be the second kind of choice behind UCLA. Problem is, I think that game is November 9th. Oh. Washington could be like 2-7 at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's part of the problem. So it's an interesting year. I'm really interested. I'm telling you, Penn State fans are up in arms about what's going to be the whiteout game. They want it to be Ohio State, but Fox keeps doing their big noon block on that. So we'll see. I'm real interested to see what's the whiteout game and what channel it's going to be on.
All right. Well, we've got David on. He says hello, and he can't wait for the Huskers to earn a whiteout spot with Penn State. Yeah. We've got Big Mama back. I think Big Mama missed last week, but we got her back here. We got JEH. He's a Beavs fan. And, of course, Genetics said he was talking about, only took 22 months for us to get a PAC deal.
Yes.
Yeah. Took a little longer than anyone would have expected. But
we got Clint Moses. Go Beavs. He's a new subscriber this week.
Awesome. So. Welcome to the mountain, Clint.
And Clint, I am an avid Beaver believer. So we will be covering, even though we focus on the Big Ten and the Mountain West, we'll be covering the Beavs all year. I think we're going to pick, I believe you're planning on picking the Beavs and the Cougs
We'll
games.
Pick them.
So we'll pick those games in the fall, and we're going to continue to cover the Beavs for sure.
I'm gonna definitely be picking them when they're playing Mountain West teams, which will be the majority of their schedule. We'll have to wait and see if we're gonna pick them the other games or not. Probably just because it'll be fun, but definitely pick the Mountain West games.
And if I could say so, for our viewers, a lot of our viewers, they've come here, they found us when we were talking about PAC, the PAC falling apart, the Big Ten expansion, the ACC cases. But the reason we started this podcast was to do pick college games, pick against the spread, pick games. We love it. We love to share our picks with each other, and so we decided to do this pod. I follow the Big Ten pretty closely. I'll be sharing all my Big Ten picks this fall. JY, he follows the Mountain West very closely, and he'll be sharing all his Mountain West picks and maybe some Beavs and Cougs games too.
Yeah, for sure. I just got to mention, I had to up my drink game because everyone has noticed how big your water bottle is. Now I have a big Hofbrauhaus glass, not legit Hofbrau, but it is a big glass, and I'm drinking yellow water. So anyway,
mine's still bigger.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on. I want to talk about San Jose State, and then after that, we want to have a discussion about Danielson and some of the headlines that were made because of some maybe slightly misreporting or misunderstanding. I'll give the benefit of the doubt maybe a little bit, but we'll get to Danielson after that. Then I want to talk about Hawaii. We can't forget about Hawaii out there in the Pacific. So starting with San Jose State, as I think everyone knows, Coach Brennan has moved on after 7 years with San Jose State. He's off to Arizona. So Ken and I was trying to practice Neomatalolo.
Yes.
I don't know. Coach Ken.
He was a coach at Navy for like 15 years, and I never learned how to pronounce his name.
Neomatalolo.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could keep saying it over and over. Coach Ken. He takes over, and obviously there's going to be a tradition here or a transition here with all of this. He said, it's been going okay so far, but it's obviously really early to tell. He's just getting in there. As you said, he had 15 years at Navy, had a record of 109 and 83. Actually had his team into the top 25 twice for Navy, which is phenomenal. Last year he was an assistant at UCLA. The offensive coordinator will be Craig Stoltzman. He's implementing a new spread and shred offense, they're calling it. And he actually had a really good offense last year at Texas State. Yeah. For those of us that watched any of our picks, that was one of the teams that I was following, especially because of their offense. They had a really strong offense at Texas State. They average over 30 points per game. And he stated he feels there's a lot of pieces here in San Jose State that'll get him to do what he wants to do on offense. We'll have to wait and see. Kevin McGivern is one of the two holdovers here in the coaching ranks. He'll be the QB coach and the receiver coach, and Derek Odom will be the D coordinator. Offensively, QB room has a lot of talent, but they've got to step up now since Cordero has graduated. He was the go-to guy for several years there. Garcia then, who was an up-and-comer, he actually followed Brennan to Arizona. So the two that seem to be kind of at the top of the list right now are Walker Eggett and Emmett Brown. I think it's Eggett or Eggett and Emmett Brown. Eggett was third string last year, but has actually moved ahead of Butterfield, who was kind of the backup last year. Brown was a transfer from Washington State. He was their third string on the depth chart last year at Washington State, but he's really been impressive down there in San Jose State. So we'll see. During the spring game, Eggett, I got to learn how to say his name, took the majority of the reps with the first team offense, so he looks like to be kind of the front runner right now. And Butterfield, again, he was a four-star quarterback, has now fallen down to third. These two, the one guy's moved ahead of him, and they brought in another guy, and he's kind of risen above him as well. And then Voss, who was another strong quarterback, has actually now transferred or entered the transfer portal. So they do have a strong quarterback room, but somebody has got to take over. As we know, Robinson, their stud running back last year, he has graduated as well, so they're going to turn to sophomore back Jabari Bates. Coach has been very impressed with Bates. We'll see what happens. They also brought in Floyd Chalk from Grambling State to be their number 2, and he very, very serviceable as well. So I think their backfield is going to be good. Robinson was a beast. Yeah. I mean, you look towards the end of the season, that offense. You know, it's funny, Steve, because I talked about that offense from the very get-go. Yep. And they were good, but they weren't as great as I thought they were going to be in the early goings, first maybe 4 or 5 games. I kind of
they finished strong.
I kind of let them go.
Yeah, mid-season through the end.
And as soon as I let them go, they caught fire. And I'll tell you what, by the end of the season, they were amazing. Mm-hmm. Most of the fans would say they were left out of the Mountain West Championship game. It was tough. And they should have been there in place of, I think they would say, Boise. You know, I say the correct 2 teams were in. We said it at the time. I think UNLV and Boise were the correct 2 teams, but absolutely San Jose State had a case to be made that they could have been in that championship game as well. Still have very solid receivers, including Nash. He was one of their best last year, and the O-line has a good size and depth, so their offense should be pretty solid again next year. Defensively, they did lose a couple key pieces to the portal, but most of their starting secondary is back, so we're going to see what happens there with them. So transfers out, they had multiple players leave to go to Arizona with Brennan. As I mentioned, quarterback Garcia went. An edge rusher, Trey Smith, who was phenomenal, went. Running back Conley went. And offensive tackle Stewart left. They had linebacker Parham, who's an excellent linebacker, actually go to Washington. A cornerback went to Texas. That was Cole. And then Steele, an offensive tackle, went to Boise State. And I see we've got some Boise State fans on right now, yeah. Bill and Joshua. Welcome, Bronco fans. We're actually going to get to Danielson here next as soon as I wrap up with the Spartans. Let me go over some transfers in, and then I'll turn it over to you. So they do bring in some really good, I mean, I mentioned how good their secondary is. They're bringing in some strong secondary players. Larry Tuner Gooden, a safety from Texas, Robert Rahimi, a safety from Liberty, and Don Chapman, a safety from UNC. So they are going to have a very strong secondary at San Jose State. And then they bring in a receiver from Alabama, Sawyer Dearman. So, yeah, they've lost some players. They bring in some players. They're returning a fair amount of players as well. Of course, they have this turnover. A big question was, what's Coach Ken going to do? It sounds like he is going to let his offensive coordinator, Craig Stoltz, run the show in his spread and shred offense. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, that was the huge question. Here's the thing. Coach Ken, fantastic leader, runs a fantastic program. When you can win at Navy to the point you're in that top 25, like you mentioned, you're doing a great job. That's never been the question for him. The question, moving to a to be a coach of a real program, not a service academy that basically has to do the option.
Right.
Is his offense. I mean, he was the guru of that option offense. That's basically what he was kind of raised in. And just, I mean, when you run that offense 15 years, that's what you're known for.
Right.
So that was the question. And it looks to me, I like this hire from Texas State, the offensive coordinator. Yeah. If you can combine just, let Coach Ken just kind of run the culture, run the program, and bring in somebody with a good offense.
Yep.
I think it's great. Like you said, they kept a lot of people.
Yes.
So I think the sky is the limit. A lot of people expected, I think, a big drop off. Like, who are they going to get to be the coach? But I think with this combination of just a good leader, a guy who knows how to run a program, with a good, effective offensive coordinator, hold on to some players. And then for the future, I mean, California, great talent, great market for recruiting talent.
For sure.
And Coach Ken is a hero to the Polynesian community. And out in California, a lot of Polynesian players, a lot of connections. So I'm excited about the future for San Jose State.
Yeah, I mean, and my big question mark would be at the quarterback position and running. I mean, honestly, they had Cordero, who was a man playing amongst boys for the most part. I mean, he was there for forever. And Robinson, who was fantastic. So if they can get serviceable players there, that's great. And I look at, you had Butterfield, who was there as kind of their backup. They have two new kids that are kind of pushing him to the back burner. That, to me, that speaks to they do have good replacements. Yeah. Maybe not to the level, right to start the season of Cordero. But it's good to hear that they have these guys. And I know they're very high on Bates. He's a sophomore tailback. We'll see what he can do, but I know they're very high on him as well. So, real quick, let me talk Utah State, because I think this is going to be 3 or 4 episodes in a row. We've talked about Utah State quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. I just have to throw this in. They signed Jacob Conover, former BYU quarterback. Okay. So they just keep restocking the freaking quarterback room for the Aggies. Hey. And I don't know if I know Josh was on the last couple times. Maybe he's on, and he can give us some thoughts on Jacob there. So let's get to Danielson.
Okay.
And I want to hear from our Broncos fans here, Bill, Joshua, anybody else, or anybody. Anybody can chime in on this. It made some headlines. People, I know there was some opinions. I texted you, read about it. I'll talk about that as well. So there was a tweet put out last week that we learned misconstrued some of the comments from Coach Danielson. It read, and I think we have this to put up, but it read, Boise State football coach Spencer Danielson said today that incoming freshmen are not eligible to make NIL money during their first year in the program. He wants players to work to earn it. I sent that to you right away, Steve, and I sent you a screenshot of it, and your immediate reply to me was, I wrote this down. Good. It's really dumb. And also, there is a 99.9999% chance it's illegal, which it is illegal. Yeah. And he didn't. What was reported in that, or what was typed on that tweet, on that X, whatever the hell it's called, wasn't exactly accurate. So this tweet required some clarification, and I want to go over that, and then I'm going to turn it to you. Yep. So what he was actually saying was not reported accurately at first, but a lot of people jumped on that. And it got changed, and I think this tweet actually got deleted, if you will. But Danielson later clarified these misrepresentations statements by saying freshmen are not banned from NIL. To your point, that would be illegal. So freshmen are not banned from NIL. They can go get it. They just aren't going to be promised anything from the collective. Also, BJ Rains of the Bronco Nation News stated that the conversation was supposed to be off the record. Again, the correction is that they won't be promised NIL. They will have to earn it. And he never said they were not eligible for NIL. So there's still something there in terms of coach saying, and this, I kind of alluded to this on the last episode where I'm like, I still want kids to earn it. I want to see kids that are going to these schools because they want to be, in this case, a Bronco. They're bought into being a Bronco. They're there for the long haul. Yes, things can change. There's reasons that they can transfer, and I get that. And I don't hold that against anybody. But if I'm a coach, and this could be old school thinking, you can correct me, Steve. And I know a lot of people jumped right down and started like, oh, he's never going to make it. They'll never do. I mean, they were attacking Danielson for this stuff, not the illegal stuff that you pointed out. Just like, this is old school. He'll be gone. They're never going to go anywhere because of this. I'm like, hold the heck up. He's trying to build a Bronco nation, which they have. He's trying to continue that, just what they do there in Boise State. So what are you thinking here? This is all kinds of crazy stuff.
Well, you read my first reaction, my immediate reaction.
Your immediate reaction, yes.
And then I listen to a bunch of national college football podcasts throughout the week. I listen to Cover 3. I listen to Until Saturday, a bunch of other ones. And on one of those podcasts, I actually heard Coach, it's Daniels, right? Danielson. Coach Danielson. They played an audio clip, maybe the next day after this. And you got all the context. I don't know what happened with the original quote, but the original quote did not match his sentiment really at all.
Right.
And he did a great job of clarifying it. And he said, hey, we're never going to hold our players up from an opportunity. You know, they come in and somebody and has a real NIL opportunity for them, whatever. We're not trying to hold anybody back.
Right.
But we're trying to encourage an atmosphere where they're not guaranteed anything by us and by the collective when they come in the door. They do. They have to come in and they have to earn it. So again, his context that he added sounded completely different.
Right.
Now, I told you I'm a firm believer in any publicity is good publicity. So I listened to like 5 different national podcasts, and every single one of them this last week were talking about Boise State, Coach Danielson. They talked about the original quote and their thoughts, and then they talked about his clarification. And every single one of them, any publicity is good publicity, but every single one of them said, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Sure.
What he's saying, what his clarification. So I don't know what happened with the original quote. I think that reporter got tarred and feathered on Twitter a little bit. So who knows?
To be clear, I am not trying to throw shade. I know I put it up there. You can see the original tweet.
Yes.
It was I think it was with On3 as well. He might be an On3 reporter or a sub-reporter or something. I don't know. So again, this is not throwing shade at that guy at all. It happens.
Yeah.
I don't think it was meant. It certainly wasn't meant. He just misstated the facts.
Yes.
He misheard it, whatever the case.
Whatever.
But anyway.
So the coach had an opportunity to come out and really add the full context. And once he did that, and so again, you had the national college football media people are interested in college football. They're listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
They're watching YouTube podcasts, watching YouTube videos, and they had a week of Boise State coverage,
right, yes.
And talking about their coach's philosophy, and pretty much all of it ended up being, after the initial backlash, ended up being positive. So overall, I totally get what he's saying, and when I listened to the actual coach speak, it sounded great, what he was saying, and I think it's good publicity for the program. I don't think it'll hurt him. And maybe there was one day of just kind of bad negative connotation, but I think the good has kind of overcome that.
For sure, and I think that the rub was the not eligible.
Yes.
At least that's how it was reported. Whether he said it that way, and maybe he did, he was just having a conversation. Again, it was supposedly supposed to be off the record, so it's like you and me having a beer or whatever, just shooting the shit.
Yes.
And you're not there getting or having a statement by a reporter. You're just off the record.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So maybe he even said it, but that's not what he meant when he said it.
He didn't add the full context.
Who knows, right? Like, but we all knew that wasn't going to jive, and it's clearly not what he meant. I want to go over a couple of our commenters' comments here because I think they say some interesting stuff. So the first thing, Clint says, I did see, yes, the Pac-12 hired Michael Molinari. I did see that. We haven't talked about that at all, but I did notice that. I think just today. Wasn't going to really bring that up, but since you did, yes, I did see that. Don't have anything to report on it, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that as well. Squeeze Money says he can't speak to Emmett Brown's play, but he's a great guy. Squeezed would know he's a Coug fan. Yeah. So great guys are hard to come by sometimes. So that's good. But apparently San Jose State's really liking what he's offered them so far. So maybe the number 2 guy, but hey, one bad game, or I hate to say it, an injury away from being a starter. So
look what we saw last year with UNLV. They had their starter got hurt. Maeva comes in, was awesome, and sky's the limit.
David asks, how can a coach control this? I think I have heard that Nick Saban and Smart want NIL to be used to keep big-time players, not as a recruiting tool. So I guess it depends on who you talk to. My guess would be to the first question, how can a coach control this? I think he reaches out to his collective and says, please don't do this. But if they want to do it, he can't. I technically can't stop. Well, it'd be illegal to stop him, I guess, right? So
Could be, depending on state law and against, Coach Harbaugh in Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, they did this last year at Michigan, and they kept that team together and turned it into a national championship. They really focused on. They had I think they called it like Leave a Legacy or Legacy program, which was keeping those players that were already there,
Right.
giving them one extra year, giving them enough money that wasn't going to be as much as the NFL money, but it was enough to give them a little bit of money so they don't feel like, oh, I'm missing out on this great opportunity. And it turned, it was great for them. Nick Saban, I mean, he retired, he's gone, so I mean, I'm sure he'll continue to be a voice, but I think a big part of the reason he retired is because he doesn't like all of this NIL and all that stuff.
Right.
And he said that. And here's the thing: is this is I feel like we're in a temporary phase, kind of a transient period, where there's almost no rules with NIL, or the rules are changing all the time, and hopefully, we'll get to some kind of a rules or agreement, some kind of cap, whatever, going forward, and so we'll see how that plays out. But for now, some coaches are using it, like Dion, kind of out there. Let's bring in the biggest stars. Let's use it as bait to go fishing.
Yep.
And some programs are using it. Let's keep our really good established players. And honestly, that's kind of how markets work. You have some companies or some entities doing things one way. You have some entities doing things the other way, and then you see how who gets the most profits out of that.
Well, are you there for the money? Or are you there for the coach?
Yeah.
The team, the university, the other players, the fill in the blank. I could go on and on and on. And you're there for many, many things.
Yes.
But what's the top of your priority list?
Right.
Well, if you're making it, you're making it.
Yeah.
What else matters?
Yeah.
I'm overstating it.
Well, I think I'm
a little jaded.
It's for all of us. Like even you and I in our jobs. So we like our jobs, but they also pay us. If they stop paying us, we might stop going.
They probably would. Yes. So Bill says, you're correct, Steve Danielson was misquoted by a local journalist. Yeah, unfortunate, but it can happen. I did want to point out, I didn't write anything up, but I saw, I didn't even get to read the whole article. So maybe, Bill, if you saw this, please let me know. But Danielson, in a separate article, and I can't remember where it was from, was stating how he knows that there have been other coaches contacting players to try and recruit them. And he didn't out anybody. He didn't name any universities or coaches' names or anything like that. But I think he said it was like he knew of like a dozen. Yeah. And he called them, man to man is like, stop recruiting my players. And that probably happens way more than we realize. But, until people start to speak up about it and, quite frankly, call people out, he's doing it kind of the way to not ruffle feathers, but at the same time, let people know it's happening. Yeah. So I saw that, and he's definitely, taking it man to man and saying, enough, stop contacting my players.
And that stuff happened way before NIL or any of that stuff. I remember when Bill O'Brien came in, being a Penn State fan, Bill O'Brien came in and there was open season on the Penn State roster. The coaches were hiding in bushes, trying to talk to players. And literally, I think there was one coach that was like on campus, hiding around corners, trying to jump out and talk to players.
Peeping coach?
Yeah, maybe the Illinois coach. Okay. And Bill O'Brien called it out, and the players there called it out.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's happened. If that happened at Penn State, that was a unique situation, but I'm sure that's been happening at other schools way long before NIL.
Yeah.
And I like to see. Sometimes coaches speak real politically. They beat around the bush or whatever.
Right.
I love when a coach comes out and just calls something out for what it is.
Right. Yeah. So what do we got here? We got, by the way, Steve, the Purdue versus RSU will be on CW. CW wanted the Washington State Oregon's game. That was one of the partial issues for delaying assignment. Okay, good. I did not see that. That was according to Canzano, I believe. Okay.
Yeah, good.
That makes sense. I would have wanted the Washington State and Oregon State game too.
Yeah.
So that could make sense to me. Maybe they're paying a little extra maybe there was a bidding war at the end just for that game. I don't know. That would have been interesting.
So David Jorgensen, he's talking about Matt Rule doing the same, called out coaches via phone call. Players were going to the coach showing the text. So here's the thing. Well, I've always had as a Penn State fan, I've always had a soft spot for Matt Rule. I think he's a great coach, just a great guy. This dude, since he's got to Nebraska, I don't want to say he doesn't give a crap, because he does. He cares about Nebraska and whatever.
Yeah.
But he will just say whatever. Like on these press conferences,
Yeah.
he just opens up the mic and tells it like it is. I mean, he's been there, done that. He's brought other programs, college programs, to be successful. He's gone to the NFL, made some big money. Now he's back in the college game, and he speaks his mind, and I love it. So
Last year was his first year at Nebraska.
last year was the first year.
I remember there was a couple, to your point, there was a couple times he was at the mic and doing what he does.
Yeah.
And I'm listening, I'm going, this dude's fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
I didn't have the history like you had. And I think I texted you, I'm like, dude, Matt Rule's awesome.
Yes.
And you're like, oh yeah, he'll just tell it as it is. I'm like, thank goodness somebody does.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to agree with him, but at least he's shooting, he's telling you how he actually feels.
He old school guy, played
Yeah.
for Joe Paterno, and like I said, he's been around the block. He's won at Temple, he's won at Baylor, he's been in the NFL. The thing is he probably doesn't need this job to feed his family. Okay,
Yeah.
He's doing his best in this job, but at the same time, he's at a point in his career. Well, he's always been just kind of a straight shooter, but even more now, he's at this point where he's been around the block. He's sick of the BS, and he's just going to tell it like it is.
Okay, well, I love it.
Yeah,
We need more guys like that.
yeah, I agree.
Ready to get to Hawaii. Honolulu, Hawaii. We're going to go out in the Pacific Ocean.
Can't wait.
All right, let's go out there. So Tim Chang is starting his third year as a head coach. So no more, I'm in my first year or I'm in my second year. No. You're starting your third year. You've had your time. Let's see some results out there in Hawaii. That's what I have to say. He said that spring practices is all about developing depth. You're going to hear me state not a lot of starters had a lot of time on the field for their spring practices, their spring ball. So, of course, if you don't have a lot of starters out there, guess what? You're going to develop depth, and you're going to see what your young kids have to do, athletes have to do. Chris Brown returns as the associate head coach. Dennis Thurman is the new D coordinator, and Dan Morrison returns as the QB coach. We talked about Shager, the quarterback. He tested the portal transfer waters, but then he decided to stay, which I was happy to see. Like I want them. I do want them to succeed. It's hard to succeed out there, and I'm glad to see that he stayed. Should be the undisputed number one quarterback. Top wide receiver Ashlock is also staying. There was some thought that he might. He never did, at least not yet. He hasn't tested the waters. So I'm glad that he's able to stay. And their offense overall has been strong. The defense, not so much, but they can make some plays out there in Rainbow Land. We, again, didn't see many starters in the spring game. But we'll see what happens here as we get into the summer months and, of course, the fall. The defense will have a new scheme under Coach Thurman. The unit is fairly young here. As I said, that was a bit of the struggle last year. I anticipate that being some of the struggle again this year. Again, with a new DC, not many starters playing, really hard to get a read on the spring here. And they're going to have to improve pretty quick. So we'll see if they can do it. Transfers out, as I said, Shager looked to transfer out, but he withdrew that. He stayed. But the other quarterback, Yellen, is in the portal right now, one of the other quarterbacks. And then Josh Atkins, an offensive tackle, transferred to Arizona State. Transfers coming in. They got running back Cam Barfield from Boston College. He actually appeared in 10 games over the first 2 years of his career for Boston College. So he, I would think, would be pushing for he'll definitely get some carries. I don't know if he'll be the starter, but he's definitely going to get some carries out there. Crowdis, a wide receiver from Kentucky, has really good high-end speed and skill. So, again, you pair Crowdis with Ashlock, Shager at quarterback, they could have a pretty solid passing game if their offensive line can give them the time to sling it. But I'll tell you what, there were a couple games towards the end of the season last year. They blew my pick because their offense came to life and was blowing teams apart with their offense. So they can get the job done on offense. They also get a cornerback, Ross, from USC, and a defensive lineman from Nevada, Washington. Some other notes I just want to point out. This is going to be the first time since 2017 that the University of Hawaii is playing a 12-game schedule and not a 13-game schedule.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they always have played in that week 0. They're actually going to do it again.
Yeah.
But then they're going to get 3 bye weeks throughout the season. So a 12-game schedule for them first time since 2017. Oregon actually backed out of the week 0 contest.
Oh, okay.
So they had to go and figure out who the heck are they going to play on August 24th. And they got, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Delaware State.
Wow.
In FCS, they were 1-10 last year.
Wow.
You know who I'm going to pick?
Yeah.
I'll be picking Hawaii.
Yeah.
Book it early, book it often. Take Hawaii. I don't care what the spread is. Pick Hawaii.
Why not just play University of Maine?
I don't know. I guess, you know what? They were happy to, because it kind of happened late. They were happy to even get a team to play, right? I mean, they could have been down to a freaking 11-game schedule, I guess, if they don't play week 0. They also get the last 3 Mountain West champions on their schedule this year. Boise, Fresno, and Utah State. They had to play all 3 of them, so they're up in their strength of schedule here for this year. Like I said, they better up it a notch because they've got a hard schedule going forward. They actually should be happy Oregon backed out, so they get Delaware State.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it for the Hawaii Rainbows. I think I've done every team for the Mountain West here this spring except for 2.
Lobos?
No, I did the Lobos.
Okay.
I haven't done Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
I'm saving the Pokes, and I haven't done Air Force. So I'm going to do Air Force and Wyoming probably next week. I'm seeing if I can get a special guest on, maybe live. We can try our first live special guest for the Pokes. I had to twist our producer's arm.
Yeah. And all his hair fell out this week when he heard that.
Did he? We'll do a little testing. Testing. Oh, Josh is on. All right. Hey, Josh, how you doing? Hey, we mentioned you signed another daggone quarterback because you guys, we can't talk about your quarterback room. Or we can't go a week without talking about your quarterback room. So we saw Jacob Conover was signed, former BYU quarterback. So I had to bring him up earlier. Good to have you back on here, Josh.
Utah State's collecting quarterbacks like Pokemon cards.
Apparently. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Okay, Bill, what's he say? Danielson did say if he is made aware of a player tampering, he will confront that coach. Genty has had numerous calls. That doesn't really surprise me. A little disappointing, but doesn't surprise me since he said he's staying in Boise. And here's to Genty for staying in Boise. I'm happy to see it.
I have a question for our Mountain West fans, and maybe you know this, but I want to see if anyone has a Mountain West player ever made it. And there's one particular one from Wyoming that I'm thinking would probably be the most likely.
Yeah.
But has a Mountain West player ever made it on the stage in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony? Just on the stage, not obviously won, but
right.
Just been invited.
I do not know the answer to that. 25 years worth of Mountain West.
Yeah.
That's something I might have to Google.
I think because and I'm gonna guess not.
I would guess not as well, but I don't know.
And I'm thinking maybe this year, if you and I we're gonna be pushing that Ashton, is it Alshon or Ashton?
Ashton Genty.
Ashton Genty Heisman Trophy campaign this year. At least get the buzz out there.
I want him on the stage.
That would be awesome.
Nabbit.
How awesome would that be?
I want him on the stage.
Imagine this year. How good. I mean, I know you're a YO fan and Josh is an Aggies fan, but for the Mountain West, how huge would it be to get a Heisman Trophy finalist on a stage and to get that G5 college football playoff spot this year?
Yeah, well, first off, I am a Poke fan, but I am a Mountain West fan. I want us to take the G5 spot, dag nabbit, and I want Genty on the stage, dag nabbit, and it might be wishful thinking, but hey, dream big or go home. So I'm dreaming big. I want them both.
We're starting the buzz right here on the big mountain.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. I want Genty on stage, and I want that G5 spot.
Maybe we can get our producer to make a graphic of Ashton Gentry with a Heisman Trophy. Do a Heisman Trophy campaign graphic. We'll see if we can get him to do that.
I love it. Let's do it. With riding a Bronco.
Yeah.
He's on top of a Bronco.
Jorgensen's asking if that's apple juice. Earlier you said it was yellow water.
It's apple juice.
Okay.
I need to keep up the vitamin C.
Yeah.
So you get vitamin C from apples?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
And vitamin A and all of them, whatever. So David, if you like that, if you think that's interesting, you should go back on our YouTube channel and watch we did in the fall, we did an Oktoberfest taste test special that was awesome. We had a lot of fun doing it. And then I think we were planning on maybe doing another one this summer.
We were planning on doing another one. We have not done one.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to do that.
Maybe we should do some kind of summer beers.
We should try. Ty Detmer, let's take a look. I'll look that up. I don't know the answer to that.
BYU. I think they were independent. I'm almost positive that BYU was independent at that point.
At that point? Okay.
Okay, Alex Smith, 2004 Utah. That's a good...
Yes, that's another good one.
Yeah.
I'm a big Alex Smith fan.
Yes, me too.
With the whole, if you haven't, you probably have all seen it, but if you haven't seen that, I don't know if it's a documentary.
Yeah, I think it was on Netflix. I think it was a documentary.
Yeah, documentary on the whole injury and his comeback and everything. Unbelievable. As a Beaver, Genti scares me. Props to him for not taking the Martinez out. Yep, staying loyal, staying. Yep, good on you, dude. Amen to that, JEH. I'm sure the collective helped in that regard, but at the same time, I guarantee you there's probably other collectives that would give him as much, if not more. So I did it once. I'll do it again. Apple juice to Genti for sticking around. I am not a Bronco homer, but I am a Mountain West fan. And I'm a, what did I call myself? Cheerleader. I'm a Mountain West cheerleader. I'll cheerlead the Mountain West till the cows come home. So yeah, that's all we have. Do you have anything you want to say before we end this sucker out?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, just looking forward to. I think this summer we're going to do preseason previews.
Yes.
Once we get closer to camp, so looking forward to that. You've gotten through all the Mountain West teams almost. I'm gonna continue to go through the Big Ten teams. I think I'll talk about all the teams. I even talked about Rutgers already.
Okay.
So I'm going to continue through the Big Ten teams, but definitely looking forward to this summer. We're going to do our preseason previews, and I know you're already working on this on FanDuel. We're gonna look at some lines of some team win over and unders.
Yeah.
and things.
Well, I'm
like
going to
that.
throw one out right now.
Okay,
Steve.
I love it. Let's
Because
go.
why not? That's what we do on the mountain. We can finally bet college football on FanDuel, and I'm going to throw one out right now. Let me just say, Jerry Keenan, Alex Smith, 2004 Utah. I don't know if that's a question or an answer. I don't know. Is that a question or an answer? And I also see Kellen Moore from Boise State. So I'm writing all these down. I'm going to go do some research. I want to find out.
Okay, so before you give your pick, I
gotta pick.
want to give another trivia question, Mountain West trivia question.
Okay,
So-
you give a trivia question, and for the bettors out there, JY's got his first bet of the 24 season.
So they just announced the new NCAA 25 game that's going to be coming out here soon, and they have the cover for the deluxe edition. So for our Mountain West fans out there, and well, really our Boise fans, but Mountain West too, give me the name. There was a Boise State player who was on the cover of the NCAA game. I think in 07-ish, 08. And so I want to hear if you guys know, and I don't think it was Kellen Moore, but there was definitely a Boise State player on the front cover. I think it was right maybe around the time they beat Oklahoma in that game, on the cover of NCAA 14. So give us the name if you know it.
I like that.
Yeah.
And Jerry Keenan says that was an answer. So awesome. Thank you. There's no reason to not believe you. I totally believe him.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be?
And that was, I'm sure, during the Urban Meyer era. Yeah. I mean, Alex Smith, he was a high pick, great player.
Thank you, Clint. We try to have fun here on the mountain. That's what we're all about. Yeah. We're not all about being assholes.
Yeah.
That's not fun. You can find assholes all over the place.
Yes.
And what was the other one I want to say? Oh, Jerry, Big 12 fan becoming a Mountain West homer. Let's do it. Mountain West homer. Whatever we're going to be called, let's do it. We're going to be the best Dagon conference west of the whatever.
Yeah.
Mississippi.
I love it.
Anyway, so here's my pick. Anybody that does betting, 8.5. Boise State wins over under. 8.5 go over.
Over. Okay.
Bet the over on Boise State. Their easy 9, maybe 10 win season.
Last year, you basically told people to bet the house on, I think it was Wyoming. Was it 6.5 wins?
It was 5.5. It was
5.5.
stupidly low.
Yes, and you took it, and I'm pretty sure you used the term.
I did.
Bet the house.
I'm not doing that right now.
Well, you're not doing that right now, but if anybody took, I know you bet them last year. Hopefully,
oh yeah, I went heavy on them.
Yeah, and you had a lot of pushback last year from even Wyoming fans saying they weren't going to be very good, and it was a huge hit for you. So that's what you gave last year. And now you're saying Boise State 8.5, hit the over.
Over Boise State. I'm not saying bet the house.
Don't bet the house.
Don't bet the house.
Just take
to
the
be
over.
very clear, just take the over. 8.5. If it was 7.5, I would bet the house, but it's not 7.5. It's 8.5.
I'm gonna have to watch that line.
So go over Boise on 8.5. And Bill says Genti would have to have a monster season. G5 gets no respect. I agree. Yes, Genti would have to have a monster season, but I think he's going to have one.
Yeah.
And I agree. They don't get any respect, but who cares? It's going to be so big. They've got to respect it.
I love it. And Squeeze Money, our buddy Squeeze Money, he was the first person in the chat today. Opened the door for everybody else and told everyone else to come in. He says it was Zabransky was on the cover. I'm 99% sure he's right.
Okay, Squeeze Money's always good for. He's got this.
Yeah. So Squeeze Money, be honest. Did you look that up or did you just know it?
I bet Squeeze Money knew it.
I wonder if I had the year right. I think I said 07 or 08. Something
like
I
that.
think it was right around there.
I think Squeeze Money knew it because I trust him.
Okay.
Austin Hoover says take Wyoming on the over. They are 6-5 right now, and I
Okay.
did take them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make that a pick quite yet. I struggle with their O-line.
Yeah.
And Svoboda's his first-year starter. I want to love him, and I want to lock that, Austin Hoover, but I'm not going to do it yet. We have plenty of time to get other bets out there. The only one I'm going to put right now is 8.5 on Boise. But yes, Austin, I may have put some money on YO. I'm just not ready to make that a pick
Does
yet.
YO still have the kicker from last year? Or did he
Yes.
move on? Okay, yeah, then I take it.
All right, so hey, we're finally getting into some betting again. I sent you some picks on that.
Yes.
And what was it? It was wins, and there was something else I gave you too.
I just remember over under.
Was it over and under wins? Okay, I thought there was something else. But anyway,
Squeeze Money has a copy. I also have a copy of that game. That's why I remembered it. Just a Boise State helmet for PS2. I think like 07, 08 time frame.
if you got the copy of the game,
I'll try and find it.
it sticks into
You
your mind.
might actually have it because I think I let you borrow my PS2 before the
crap.
stack of games. So you may
I
actually have it.
hope that's not true. I'm getting myself in trouble. I think we have to end this episode, is
Yeah.
what I think, because now I got to go home. Got to go back to my back and look for this stinking thing. So anyway, hey, we thank you guys for watching. We like to have some fun here on the mountain, as we always do. And yeah, with that, we got some new people on. Jerry, Clint, we thank Bill. I think you've been on a few times before, but we thank you guys for watching us here. We try and do a live episode every Wednesday, so stick your little calendar invite on there, and we'll keep doing these as long as we can. Obviously, life gets in the way sometimes. We have to skip some, but we'll try.
Live.
On Wednesday night. We have another FSU episode coming out hopefully tomorrow, if not maybe Friday. And yeah, we'll just keep going. Keep doing what we do on the mountain.
All right.
Hey, we thank you guys for watching. We thank our producer in the back. He's always ready. He's got putting up all the graphics and everything for us. We boss him around.
PWB Productions.
PWB Productions. So hey, with that, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time on The Big Mountain.